Hey guys, welcome back.
Hey, we're going to be talking about the unique mission pillar in our academy and 5 points of awareness that everybody really needs to know in order to discern their unique mission.
So you're definitely going to want to stick around. This is very foundational to what we do here at Metanoia Catholic. Stick around.
See you in there.
Hi guys, welcome back.
Hey, welcome. We're going to be diving into our 3 pillars over the next 3 episodes. Talked about it in some previous episodes here, but today we're going to be talking unique mission and how you can explore it on very practical levels.
What are the 3 pillars again?
3 pillars are unique design, unique mission, unique battle. We're starting with mission, I don't know, kind of arbitrarily. We just said, let's do unique mission.
Yeah. Well, we surveyed people, and most people actually wanted to learn more about unique mission.
Actually, the number one, if we're being really, it was close tie between unique mission and unique
battle.
Design.
Oh.
No, and battle was kind of the third, but honestly, it was a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
Yeah.
So there was curiosity about exploring all 3 of these things. And I think that's very appropriate because you need all 3 of these things to really help you get focused. And we found they're focused on really advancing God's kingdom. We found that these 3 areas, the more you grow in awareness of some 5 basic points in each one of these pillars, it really helps you to discern God's will, the way forward, how you're called to change the world, how you're called to show up, how you're called to engage in battle, all things that are necessary on this side of heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that I think we bring that's unique to the table is the combo of all 3, because there are certainly overlaps of the elements of the points of awareness. There's a lot of overlap here.
Yeah. The more you explore your unique design, the more it's actually going to inform your discernment of your unique mission. Right?
And your unique battle.
Your unique battle. There are things where the enemy assaults you is often where the things that are contrary to your mission, right? And so we can see, the enemy always assaults me over here. Maybe he doesn't want me to do this thing over here. Maybe that's because it's very important. It's going to make a big impact. God's grace is really going to show up. So they all go together. We share how they all go together inside of our academy, which I'm really excited about. And so what we're going to do here today is we're going to take you through a couple of things just on the unique mission pillar. All right. The first thing, we're going to talk about 5 points of awareness. All right. Those 5 points, the more you grow aware, right? Because the journey always starts at self-awareness. As you grow aware of those 5 points, you can actually discern better where God is calling you on your unique mission. Then we're going to get into a little bit some practical ways on how you can start to grow in awareness of those 5 pillars, right? Then we're going to say, what are some practical things that you can do with, once you get aware of these things?
Once you know, what's the point? What's the point of knowing
exactly.
this?
Exactly. Yes. And then finally, what does it look like? What does success look like in growing and aware of your 5 pillars and advancing in your unique mission?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
Let's dive right in.
Okay, so why explore the unique mission? All right, we say at Metanoia, you good here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Shuffle. We explore our unique mission because in our unique mission, we discover the direction, purpose. We discover direction and purpose. Let's put it that way. A lot of people are just, they feel directionless or aimless.
Yes.
And so you start to lean into that experience of having a direction, having an aim.
Having a lane. Like where am I being called to, to advance God's kingdom in my own unique way? What's my lane?
Yeah.
In the body of Christ.
But even how do I reveal God uniquely to the world in an unrepeatable way in all of human history, right? And the question we like to ask with this is how is God calling you to be the patron saint? What is God calling you to be the patron saint of? Because those areas of excellence are where the saints, like St. John Vianney, he was an excellent parish priest, ergo he's the patron saint of parish priests, right? So where is God calling you to be excellent as well? Okay, virtuous.
Boom. All right, let's do it.
All right, so the 5 points that we explore here, because discernment is an ongoing process when it comes to the 3 pillars, definitely with mission. It's a flowering, but the journey always begins at self-awareness. So what are the things that we want to grow in awareness of, all right, that we can actually do some very practical things to grow in our awareness of these things. So we have 5 points for each one of the pillars. Here's the 5 points that we have for unique mission.
Something to know before we go into this too, and we spoke about this in a previous podcast, but it's that mission is kind of changing throughout our lives a little bit. We have one big, like there's like probably a big mission that we won't really know. Maybe we'll know it. Maybe we won't at the end of our lives. But there's like, it's made up of a series of mini missions, and they're all based and like kind of within the context of our vocation in life, our universal call to holiness, our vocation, and our state in life. So my mission might look different if I'm a full-time student versus a mom with a 5-year-old at home.
Yes.
So that's just something to keep in mind as we are developing these things.
Yeah. So when you say my mission looks different, it's really the mission trajectory, what you reveal, that unique aspect of God that you reveal is consistent.
Yes.
But it's lived out in different ways.
That's right.
And it's always taking into consideration what are the obligations of your state in life, right? Okay. All right.
And another thing that we're measuring here, I added this in my notes because I think this is important too. We're implying that God has already been calling us on this mission and revealing this mission to us throughout our lives. And it is kind of studied, and one of the ways that we measure it is really through patterns and consistencies throughout our lives.
Yeah, specifically patterns of resonance, we say.
Yes. So a lot of these questions that we're going to ask you, or these points of awareness that we're going to ask you, it's kind of, they're meant to be applied in not only the here and now, but also, okay, throughout my life, have I always been interested in this, or so on and so forth.
Okay, so we're reflecting backwards as well as we're reflecting on the present moment. Okay.
Sorry.
We're fighting off colds here again. A little sinus infected. Aaron can hear out of one ear at the moment.
I have an ear infection. I haven't had an ear infection in 30 years.
I know. What are you, like 5? Okay.
I don't know.
All right, so let's get into this. First point of the 5 points of awareness is, what are your interests? Okay, what are those things that captivate you, hold your attention? Maybe they've even held your attention for a long period of life, right? It's been a consistent interest that you've explored. Aaron, you asked a question like, what if you open up your podcasts? Like, what's in your library?
Yeah,
or like what's
what
in your bookshelf
learn?
library?
What would I learn about you? What would I come to find that you are very interested in?
Yes.
What do you nerd out on, basically, is the question we like to ask.
Yeah. So again, when we're having an area of interest, there's resonance that we're experiencing over there. If we understand resonance, it's kind of like the somatic experience that we have, that we sense in our body, to something that is a spiritual reality. Okay. So if our bodies are starting to kind of reveal this resonance in one particular area of interest, I know for me, it's like, I really love neuroscience. And I love this spirit-body connection. That's why I love theology of the body. That's something that once I heard it, I just couldn't get enough. I just wanted to have more and more and more. We keep going back to the Theology of the Body Institute, get more of this stuff. So that would be certainly an area of interest where I have deep resonance consistently throughout my life. Yeah,
some questions that we ask in one of our assessments, and I'll just kind of brief this, but it's like, if you could attend a masterclass on any topic with any expert, what would it be on? And it's not really something that you feel like you should do, but it's something that you're like, oh my gosh, it would be so amazing if I could go to this masterclass. That's just one area to bring up about interest. If you think about unique design, and we talk a lot about contributions, weaknesses, all this stuff, like strengths, that kind of stuff, that stuff is wonderful. And this question of interest and preference is something that's so much more unique and so much more intimate, because we can have the same strength and be able to do the same thing, but
where we're focusing it,
I'm interested in a different reason than you are. So I think that's something that this really makes it much more intimate.
Yeah, like I apply it towards a different goal or something like that, a different aim. Okay, so aim, we're exploring a mission. All right, so that's the first one. What is your interest? The second one is kind of a double. It's like, what are the problems that you ponder and the solutions that you engage here as well? All right, so the second point of awareness are what we call problems and solutions that you engage. What are these problems that you feel drawn to, and what are the solutions that you provide here? So like this might be an area of poverty that you feel called to, a deficit, some injustice that's there. But then there's a solution that you want to bring, you feel inclined to bring to that. Some people want to start a business to address it. Some people want to just lean in and listen. Some people want to help one person. Some people want to help 1,000 people with this. No matter how big, no matter how small the problem and the solution that you provide, we just want you to write it down, right? Because that starts to it starts to reveal a little bit, again, that point of resonance where the Lord is kind of calling you to a particular arena, perhaps.
Yeah. 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 Like if you could eradicate any injustice in the world, what would you start with? What would it be? And how would you go about doing that if you had like endless resources and supplies? That's a good question to ask, to identify both the problem and the solution.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Okay. Next we have, what are your unique gifts? And so Aaron said before that these three pillars have a way of interacting with one another.
Overlapping.
And so unique gifts is something certainly that we explore in the unique design pillar. But here, like we're looking in the context of, okay, we got these problems and solutions that we desire to address. How's the Lord perhaps uniquely gifted me or qualified me or is going to qualify me, right, to address these things in a way, in a way that is unique to the solutions that I like to provide. Right? He's not going to call us to address a problem using talents that we don't have.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's important to kind of getting into the how. It certainly is going to be engaging all of your talents. Remember, we don't like to bury talents.
Yeah. Something to expand upon this, your unique gifts or talents, is there's 3 E's. Areas of ease. You do it with ease. Like it's almost like not a sacrifice to you. You do it excellently. Like you do it with like a level of excellence, right? So you actually do it well. And then you do it with effectiveness, meaning you create good fruit and people have acknowledged that and they've said to you, hey, you do this really well, or hey, you really helped me in this particular area. So that's kind of a way of gauging this, because so often we can be like, oh, I have this gift, or I took this assessment and they say I have this gift and they say I have this talent. But I think if it doesn't hit all 3 of those, there's probably some growth that needs to happen within that.
Yes. And something that I see also as I'm walking people through exploring these things, they may be at their place of work right now and say, you know what, I use these 5 talents over here, but like these aren't really engaged over here. Do I just need to quit my job? And it's just like, no, hold your horses on that. Let's just notice that we've got a couple of talents that aren't really engaged. Maybe ask the question, how might I start in my place of work or my current state in life? Start to engage these talents a little bit more, knowing that the Lord does not give us any talents that he wants sitting on the sideline. He always wants us to be actively willing their engagement wherever we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're also looking for elements of that interest and motivation too here. Like what are you really passionate about doing too? It's not always the same thing. So you're looking for this passion, this interest, this motivation, but also excellence, ease, and effectiveness.
Got it. Okay. The next one that we get into, number 4 here, is what are your core values? Okay. So rarely, I mean, you have organizations that will have their core values listed maybe on a bulletin board
We come
somewhere.
back to ours all the time.
We do. They really become a litmus test for whether or not we move forward with the decision or how we move forward with the decision. That one, simplicity, is a big one. Simplicity, practicality, those are 2 of our core values at Metanoia. And we use those as a sounding board often to see if we're engaging with something that is really not how we operate naturally, and it's demanding something of us that's maybe we're not really excellent at.
I think it also it helps us to simplify things.
Yes.
So like if we are like overcomplicating things, like it's like, okay, let's just lean into simplicity here. How can we make this simpler?
Yeah. But your core values, folks, answer the question, how do I operate? And so we're not looking to aspirational values that we wish we had, right? Or that we admire in somebody else. It's okay to wish and admire those things. But it's more so innately, how do you operate? If you're somebody that is, say, very punctual, right? And you show up on time and that's something you really value. Okay, well, that might fit as a core value. But if you admire punctuality, but you're always showing up late, it's probably not a core value of yours, right? Maybe it's something you could work towards. So core values are definitely something we want to help our clients grow in awareness in. And then finally here, we have aspirations. And really what aspirations are, it's think of them as ideals or a future impact that you wish to create with your life. It's almost like what do you, to answer the question, what do you hope your life will look like in the future? Now, what I like about this is it starts to frame out a bit of a destination, right? And one of the things that we're always inviting clients to do is identify what this ideal is, but don't just hold on to it and cling to it and try to manifest it like you see in the secular coaching world. But
I'm going to think really hard about it.
And
hopefully
like,
it will
it'll appear, right?
appear.
Like, that's so silly. But like, rather, how do we take this desire, knowing that in the context of a spiritual battle where an enemy is trying to corrupt our desires that are here, and prudently be able to just take this and surrender it to the Lord and say, Lord, how do you want to fulfill this? So, but if we never identify the aspiration, we never bring the desire to purify to God. And I'll tell you what, that process of surrendering the desire to God and allowing him to purify that desire is one that draws you into deep relationship with our Lord. And there's
trust.
Healing that's there. There's trust. There's a lot of amazing stuff that happens there. So the goal is not the goal, as we say often.
And one of the reasons why this is the last one, what are your aspirations? Really, like, what do you want to create for the world, right? What do you want to leave as your legacy? What patron saint do you want to be? Like,
do you feel called to be, right?
This is such a core element here because it kind of takes everything that you've just excavated, everything like your interests, the problems you want to solve, solutions you want to bring, your unique gifts and talents and your core values. And it kind of creates an outlet for all of these things. It creates like, okay, so now we've dug all this stuff up. How do you want to move? How do you want to like point that and direct that?
Yes.
Everything that you've just discovered.
It gives at least a little bit of a direction to ongoing discernment.
Yeah.
Right. And perhaps even some active discernment. So again, those 5 points of awareness are 1, interest; 2, the problems and solutions that you engage; 3, your unique gifts; 4, your core values; and 5, your aspirations. Okay. So it begs the question, how do I start to grow in awareness of these things? Well, this is really what our academy is geared towards. Every single one of our levels in the academy, from the basic level, which is free, to our core level, which is where a lot of the conversations are taking place and people are just talking about this stuff. And there's formation that happens in conversation with people, folks. There's exploration, people asking questions, people affirming, people doing some fraternal correction here, or inviting somebody to ponder a little bit more, even seeing what somebody else, like somebody sharing a victory, right? Sharing a win, so to speak, can be something very inspiring to keep you seeking, right? Become one who seeks. As
also,
Christ says.
there's like just core discussion groups too. Like there's going to be like discussion groups based on different topics. So if it's just like, oh, I just really want to dive into unique mission, that's going to be available to you. But everything that is available in free will also be available in core, where there's discussions.
Correct.
Too.
Yeah. So like what's nice is we got the 3 levels. There's the basic, there's the core, and then there's the plus. And plus has everything core, basic. Core also has the basic here. So you can see any higher access gives you lower access. Anyways. Okay. So I'm going to address a little bit how we would approach somebody that's in our plus area. And this is really where we have some regular calls that are exploring the 3 pillars. We introduce some more tools. The tool here that's really helpful that we use is something we call the mission card, right? There's a card for each one of our pillars that we have, but the mission card has space for you to capture insights that you gather on a call, through discussions, on your 5 points of awareness. And so with this consolidated card, it's almost like a mission baseball card, so to speak. You're capturing things and you're becoming very consciously aware of, again, what are those areas of interest? Because arguably, as you're discerning going forward, opportunities to live more in your mission, it might make sense here for the Lord to be calling you down a path that's naturally aligned with your areas of interest. He's created you to have those interests, perhaps. Same thing. It's going to utilize your unique gifts. How do we capture some of those things? And like, what are the problems and solutions that I provide? As you start to name these things, what happens here, folks, is we start growing consciously aware of them. So when there's opportunities to step into those and like actually engage that mission in the present moment, we're much more likely to say yes and recognize that's an invitation from our Lord, versus just kind of let it go by, right? And miss out on the opportunity to really engage with that mission. That's where we find a lot of fulfillment and a lot of personal meaning. So on a very practical level, like we're going to have a monthly call that's going to be called the mission execution call. This is again in our plus level. And on that call, it's going to be exploring really what are the commitments that you've made? What are like being a student of what it was like, and taking some massive action.
Yeah, and
what are
executing on it, like not just
moving
exploring.
Forward. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we can get a little bit indulgent with exploring.
Yes.
But execution, I think, is so key, especially when it comes to unique mission. Like actually taking action is a large part of the discernment process, because like, what are you examining at the end if you're not taking action?
Yep.
So we definitely want execution calls where we can build strategies and have accountability, I think, and actively discern our unique mission.
Yeah.
But also practice bringing our unique mission and desires to prayer. With the Metanoia Journal. That
journal is really I mean, there's an exercise in our journal called Exercise 3. You're contemplating your goals with God. This is where you're able to take that mission. Like we said, we're fallen human beings. We have these desires and these aspirations, and they just may be needing a bit of purification. They probably do. Don't be surprised when you see that. But when we allow ourselves to just surrender those, to say what they are as best we understand them today, knowing that they may need to be purified, but surrendering that to God, he hands them back to us and starts to purify those desires here, folks. And it's amazing to see it happen. And the opportunities that he gives you to start stepping out into that mission all the more. I think in a super practical way, I already said it before, is just engaging with our weekly Wednesday calls, right? Every Wednesday, it's a Wednesday, right?
Yeah, where everybody shares their wins for the week. There is something that's really neurologically sound and actually in being grateful, but also like sharing your wins with other people out loud. We do it weekly with our staff and our resident coaches, and we'll sit on a call for an hour and a half, and everybody will go around. Like, we don't talk about business at all. We just talk about our wins, and it is like, we've been doing it from the very beginning, and it's people have shared, they're like, this is my favorite call of the week.
It's one thing to just be like, oh, that resonated with me, right? And or like, this, I'm really excited about this. It's one thing to just kind of say it to yourself. It's another thing to say it out loud and have somebody come back and affirm it and echo it, and you, or really celebrate it along with you. So don't like, it's a small thing, but it's a very practical way. And sometimes you see somebody else's win, right? And that resonates with you, right? And so it's just like, hey, I kind of mirror that a little bit myself. And, that could be a way of drawing another insight that goes onto that mission card with the 5 points of awareness. And then finally here, I think it's just, we've got some workshops that help you to really explore some of these areas of resonance and draw some insights that you can then just transfer over to that mission card, which kind of begs the question here.
Well, I also want to say something about Academy Plus. So, because what we just described is all happening in Academy Plus.
Correct.
Also, you will have in Academy Plus, you'll have archives to all of our previous workshops.
That's exactly what I was just talking about.
Right.
Yep.
But like, even things outside of Unique Mission, you can kind of see, okay, well, maybe these are some of the emotions that I want to be using to motivate my actions here. So you can, you have like an entire library of archived workshops.
Yeah.
On top of.
And the goal with filling out that mission card again is to grow an awareness of the things that we want to ponder, right? And ponder and discern, an ongoing discern of what the mission is that the Lord is calling us into. Okay. So like, what are some really practical things that we can do once we start to get this mission card fill out, we grow an awareness of it, we start to ponder it. I've started to see this happen. Like, you can actually find work for people that are out there in the workforce. Find work that's actually aligned with your mission. And what's exciting about that is if you already have a heart for what the mission is, there's already momentum there. You don't have to psych yourself up to go to work. You can just start you're stepping into a momentum that's already there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that even in my own life, like, because we've just kind of recently started going through this work again. And I think so often people say that, okay, I think I've done this before, so I don't need to do it again. But we recommend you do this mission work consistently, maybe on a 3-month basis or a 6-month basis, just to see where the Lord is really specifying where he wants you to be called. I know he's called me to coach, but like, in what area is he calling me to coach in specifically in this moment of my life? In this season of my life. So even just kind of, like finding work or finding those aspects within your work that's aligned with your mission. I think that's another way of doing it.
Yeah, I like even the way that you shared it, Aaron, was just like, you don't necessarily have to change your job, but rather like, how can you reframe what you're doing to kind of really be aligned with, or you can see it as nested within your mission or contributing to your mission. And
Where
even
you're
that reframe can generate some motivation.
That's right. Like just a leaning in a little bit more. I'm going to lean over in this direction a little bit.
Yeah. For example, like I know I love I'm very motivated to find out how the human person, like what makes a human person tick, right? And in my current role here at Metanoia Catholic, I get to do that in ways that like resonates deeply. But at my previous job, where I was a director of business development, I really enjoyed the marketing aspect of things, because that was one way of seeing, based on how people responded to an offer or to an email or to a blog, what resonated, what really drove them, what were they curious about. And so I love that aspect. That was something that was able to keep me motivated at that job. Okay. I love this one. We kind of already alluded to it. But with that mission card, you can start to create strategies for moving forward, for getting things done that are aligned with your core values. This is big, you guys. Again, core values answer the question, how do I operate? And when you start to build strategies aligned with how you naturally operate, the things that you naturally value, whether it's relationships or collaboration or partnership or efficiency, when you can start to ask the question, okay, how can I do this and really lean into my relationship core value? It changes the way that you build the strategy. Because again, core values answer how do we do this? One of the areas that I think we recently discovered was here we have this core value of relationship at Metanoia Catholic. But we realize over the course of some point in 2023, we kind of started to disengage even from our own community. We even had somebody that reached out to both you and I, and they're just like, hey, haven't really seen you around.
Yeah.
And like chatting and stuff recently. Hope everything's going on. I just want you to know it's like really important to like see you show up here. And I was like, oh man, like we have kind of neglected that core value. And so it started to change the way that I looked at my daily cadence of like, okay, am I leaning into that core value? And here's the thing, folks. So when you lean into your core values, you find deeper meaning. Yeah. That's there. There's that resonance.
I would also say core values help your yes mean yes and your no mean no.
Love it.
Right. So like even when it's like when we're faced with a more complicated solution or a simplified solution, it's really easy for us to say no to the complicated one and yes to the simple one.
Yes.
Because we have that core value of simplicity. And so I think that really helps kind of where you're distributing. And I'm jumping ahead, but go ahead.
Yeah. But even you said one of the other things that you alluded to before was how, so a third thing you do with this mission card. When you start to see the things that create meaning for you, you can intentionally create space or create opportunities to step into that meaning and experience that meaning more throughout your day. Again, like if relationships are really important for you and you find yourself in a cubicle constantly, or just figuratively speaking here, how might you just create more space to kind of step out and engage more with other people and other relationships?
I have a story about this, actually.
Tell me.
It's kind of funny. So I was just talking to my spiritual director, Jen Settle. If you're listening to this,
she's cool.
I hope she's awesome. And I was realizing that I was really desiring engagement, like to engage my life, to like not be so bored, but specifically at the end of the day, because that's where I get indulgent. Like, so, long story short. And she asked me this question. She's like, what do you get lost in? Or what do you like, what creates a tremendous amount of engagement and like freedom for you? Because freedom's another thing that I like love and I'm drawn to. And I'm like, riding my bike. I know it's so simple, but like, it's so nostalgic and it feels free and I feel like I'm engaged. I'm moving, but it's not like really super arduous because we're in flat land down here in Florida. So there's not a lot of hills. And so that actually helped me last night. I had to go get some meds at the supermarket, which is not like necessarily a quick ride, but is like a significant ride.
It's like a mile and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Where I could have done it in the golf cart or the car much quicker. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to choose this thing. I'm going to choose to ride my bike there. And it's like dark out and the bugs are starting to come out, but I'm going to do it because, yeah. So it just kind of helped me create that meaningful experience. And it seems small, but it was something that I claimed and I like said out loud. And I was like, I'm going to do it, where it could have been way easier to just get in the golf cart and go. But
was it worth it?
It was so worth it. It was just wonderful. I had like a lot of fresh air, and it was just a great like little detox from the day.
So cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then finally here, like another point is just, guys, people are always asking, like, how do I use my time best, and discern just how I use my gifts, my resources. I think this mission card really is a great sounding board for what you say yes to in terms of how you use your time, your talent, your treasure, right? Again, as simply, to put it simply, brain suddenly just shut off
what
there.
just happened?
Juice, melt, toast.
Hello.
No, like you can start to pick things that are aligned with your interests, that are in line with your aspirations that you have, that you've been discerning with the Lord, that are aligned with your gifts, and it's just like how do you want to use your will in a way that is aligned with the will of God?
Yeah.
The presumption here is that the Lord's will is for you to live in this experience of resonance. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
and I want to add one more thing to this, because I think whenever we take people through a unique call of sanctity, we also have another worksheet called What Do You Seek? There's a lot of like pressure people will place on themselves, like, I have to figure this out the first time, you know? And we always want to give people that opportunity to say, like, this is kind of a working draft, right? We haven't fully discerned this yet. And so
it's a lifelong discernment.
So like let it be a first draft, let it be a working draft, let it not be so permanent. And like we said before, mission is kind of like, depending on your state in life, depending on where you're at in your life, it might shift a little bit. And so like allow that to be fluid.
Yes. Another way of putting it is like, where are the opportunities to be obedient to your mission? Right. While always being obedient to your state and life obligations and to the vows that you've made for your Christian vocation and to the universal call to holiness. It
seems like a lot, but it really isn't, because all you have to do is remain close to the Lord. Like that's it.
Sure.
Like that is, if you want to remain obedient, you got to listen to him. You got to like know where he's calling you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And these exercises, it just starts to reveal how present the Lord is in my life and how involved he is in my life. Cool. All right. And so finally here is just exploring, all right, so I've done this work. I'm growing an awareness of my 5 points for mission. I'm taking it to discernment. What are some of the fruits that I'm looking for? How do I know that I'm succeeding in my discernment and engagement of my unique mission? Okay. Well, a couple here, just 6 quick points. Aaron, you said it already. Like, there's just a greater freedom that you start to experience. Specifically, guys, freedom from other people's expectations for your life. All the shoulds that are out there that we feel like we need to owe somebody some sort of an explanation, right, for not following whatever should they have for us. It's like, no, I have my mission. That's all I need. And so there's a freedom from perhaps even the people pleasing, right, of just following somebody's should path for us. Because we have our own mission, right? And that's enough. And that's ours. And nobody else's, and nobody else tells us what our mission is. We receive it from our Lord.
I think it's like also shoulds from that are self-imposed.
Self-imposed shoulds.
Yeah. So not just other people's, but like your own, that you've never questioned before.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing is like, you start actually finding the motivation to do the hard things that you've been avoiding doing.
100% this is me. I was just notorious for pushing things off, procrastination. But when I'm like living in my mission, which is, obviously being a wife to you first, a mother to Avila, and a coach, to do these hard things that in the past I would have been like, do I have to do it? Like there is just this, I don't know where it comes from, but it's this desire, this motivation.
Grace.
The Holy Spirit. Yeah, and grace. And it's just this kind of like it's almost contrary to my disposition, which is like being a phlegmatic and like being like, I don't really want to do the hard things.
Yeah. One of the things I think that is why we start engaging and doing the hard things is you start to recognize that it's the Lord working in you and it's not something that you're qualified to do. And so you're moving forward with it. But you start to just see the fruits that the Lord is working through you as a broken vessel. And in that process of continual surrender, you just create more space for him to do that in your life. And it just it's amazing. Right? The hard things, they're not so hard anymore or intimidating because you know you're not by yourself. All right, next thing is you start persevering through suffering and even looking at suffering as an opportunity to get closer to God. All right, so if you avoid suffering, right, we say that your mission is always going to entail a cross. There's going to be a cross associated with your mission, right? Can't avoid that. But it's a sweet cross. It's a cross that you enjoy clinging to.
Yeah. Yeah, like what's the fruit that you would preserve, like that you would prefer at the end of it? Would you prefer carrying a cross with barren fruit, empty fruit, no fruit at the end of it? Because, I mean, you're going to carry a cross no matter what. Whether it's like you're struggling with like, oh, I should be doing this thing or I should be living into my mission.
Which is where you're picking your own cross or inventing your own cross, not receiving your cross.
Or living in your mission and creating abundant fruit with the Lord. I mean, that is like, for me, that's an easy answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Fourth thing here is I find that when people are living on mission, they're actually more present to their family and their loved ones and the people that are in their parish community and the people closest to them. And oftentimes people think that mission is something that conflicts with state and life obligations, not in the way that we teach it at Metanoia. That's actually like a point of discernment where something's off, right? Because that's contrary to even the laws of nature here, right? It's if you're a parent and you're neglecting your kids, natural law says that's bad. Okay,
yeah,
so like that.
Right.
That's not what mission from God does. Certainly not mission from God.
There's a choice. It's an act of the will here, right? Because you can be so hung up in your mission, and I believe me, I admit to this, where you might like ignore your family more than you're like happy to do that, right? So there, it does demand that custody of the mind and that custody of the senses, but also that custody of your free will and saying like, okay, I need to come in and balance this out more. Lord, give me the grace to balance this out. How can I go about doing that? And so it is that constant checking in, that constant discernment of figuring that out.
Yeah. What does temperance look like in living out your mission here?
Right.
Sure. I think you find yourself waking up in the morning with a sense of purpose.
Yep.
Okay.
That definitely happened to me.
Beautiful here, right? And it's not a sense of purpose that's just like a sense of obligation. Oh, there's all this stuff I have to do, but like it's this stuff that even if it's hard work, there's a joy. Again, it's a sweet cross that you're looking forward to. Okay, and then finally, and I love this one, as you start to discern and grow and getting more in touch with your own unique mission, you start to wonder about other people's unique mission. And then there might be people that kind of share their unique mission with you. And then you might even see opportunities for collaboration and complementarity between what you bring and what they bring. And that's like a real body of Christ experience here, where there's a space for everybody to show up in their unique gift. And I see even that spousal analogy of John Paul II coming alive here, where people are just coming together to create something that is better than just the two parts of themselves.
Yeah. Can I add another one?
Do
here?
it, Aaron.
Last but certainly not least, one of the fruits of doing this is to really coming into deeper intimacy with the Lord. We've mentioned this a lot in the past, but discernment is about relationship and really leaning on God and asking him for his opinion. Because, guys, a lot of this work that we take people through, it can turn self-indulgent. It can turn navel-gazing pretty quickly if you remove God out of this. But one of the ways for you to tell if you're growing in intimacy towards the Lord is your prayer life changes. Your prayer life becomes deeper. You dive much deeper into scriptures and truth and the teachings of the faith, but also your virtue. Like you start to grow in virtue, which is measurable. I mean, not saying like
observable.
We're doing that to like go around and like boast of growing in virtue, but like
which would not be virtuous.
Which would like totally like remove our I don't know.
Did you see how humble I am?
Yeah, it would totally be contrary to the goal. But growing in virtue, like Matt was saying, it's observable. You can actually see like, oh, okay, so in the past, I used to like flip out on my children at this time of night, and now I'm not really doing that. Yeah. So that's something to note. So I think that's a big piece here.
I see it in you, babe. I definitely see it in you. Do you see it in me? I was fishing for a reciprocal compliment.
I'm not going to answer that.
Silence.
Silence is golden, and your way to heaven.
Got it. All right. So that kind of wraps it up here, folks. We hope we've helped you to understand what it means to explore a unique mission. You can certainly, like, there's stuff, guys, you can start to grow in these points of awareness. Remember your interests, those problem solutions that you feel drawn to and to engage, your unique gifts, your core values, your aspirations. You can start growing awareness of these things by just asking the simple question: what are my core values? What are my aspirations? But there's something that happens when you enter into a community of people that are asking these questions, and you enter a community of seekers. And that's what we have in the Metanoia Catholic Academy. At the very least, I would invite you to join our core community. Very affordable. The conversations that are happening there, folks, though, are having momentum, and it's momentum that's carrying you to grow in greater awareness of your unique, of your 3 pillars.
And if you want to join Academy Plus, we will give you a very deliberate process to walk through this, which also is very affordable too. Like I would say if you're like, I 100% want to join this, even if it's for a couple months, I think I'm going to make this investment in time and energy and money. We could give you this process of walking through this unique mission, these steps within the unique mission.
Yeah, and I love the way that we've, just based on people's feedback, how they guided us to structure the Academy the way that we do it, because we have Academy Plus, which is a little bit more intensive. Like you're investing some time to join live calls. There's no live calls that are a regular part of our core community. That's where all the engagement and the conversations are taking place. But like the workshops and the greater accountability and like that's taking place in Plus. But the reason why we structured Core and Academy Plus the way that we did was because there's seasons where somebody feels really called to kind of get with the personal trainer and really up level their game, right? And so there's a bit of a surge capacity. But then at some point, state in life changes and they say, you know what, or they hit a point where they're like, I'm good, but I still really want to stay engaged with the community. It's fine. You just drop from Plus down to Core, and you still get to have that encouraging community that's got momentum in and of itself. Or say you're just like, you know what, I'm not really in a place where I feel called to kind of do the work, but I want to still grow.
Yes.
And make sure that I'm not backsliding. And you know what? I'm spending all this time on social media right now that really isn't feeding me. What if I just jumped into this community and this became my social media where I can show up and I know I know that there's formation that's taking place just by engaging with some of the people that are here.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. We got something for everyone. So come check it out.
Cool. All right. Next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about exploring your unique design pillar, but then also your unique battle pillar. So stay tuned and join us in the Academy, CatholicCoaching.com. Go check it out.
Ta-ta.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.